I'm Michelangelo Badio, and I'm going to teach you Lesson 2. And what this lesson focuses on is how to hold a guitar properly, and we're going to do a recap of the first 4 chords that I taught you in Lesson 1. Now, like I said, the first thing we want to do is tune up. So get your tuner and tune standard tuning. And now we can begin. The first 4 chords that I showed you were the G chord, strumming 4 strings, G7, in this order, C major, D7, and then you end on G. And like I said, when I learned this in my very first guitar lesson, the teacher didn't teach me the chords in that order. It was a random order. And I put it together because it seemed, like I said before, the proper way. And it goes back to what I will say 1,000 times, and if you're sick of hearing it, I'll still say it 1,000 times more. Musical people find a way to make music. And so now that you've had the first lesson and you've worked on those 4 chords, and I showed you a musical way to put it together, here's a little bit of the philosophy according to Michael, and this should be a philosophy for you to learn guitar and to take, and really it's a life lesson too. When you think about practicing a guitar and you think about, I'm going to teach you how to hold the guitar properly, you want to do things the right way. But there are 2 parts of learning an instrument. Part 1 is obviously the technique and learning the proper way and the method and the skills to do what you want. Part 2, and these are to be done simultaneously, is once you get enough chords and you get a little bit more knowledge and a little more focused and comfortable playing the guitar, you want to work on music. So throughout the entire time that you play, you think about technique will make you a better player. It will enhance the other side, which is creating music. And you're going to find as you go through this journey, there's a lot of different opinions. The ones that I try to look at are ones that have a real focused idea on what they want to teach. But beware of the opinionated teacher, because these are the people that are very jaded, and they have this opinion like, well, you don't want to listen to this person, or you don't want to listen to that band, they suck. It's this exalted, like, I am the absolute truth, I am the one that knows. Here's my position on this. Any technique, any idea that enhances your technique or enhances your musicality is open, is fine. See, it's one technique isn't better than another. Somebody asked me recently about picking versus what's called the cage system. And what should I do? My teacher says one way and this. There's no law that says it's one or the other. You can do both. And so you want to add to your knowledge. My motto for myself and for what I want to teach you, always a student. If you think you're so good that you can't learn anything new, then you're going to be one that years later, oh, back in the old days, it was so awesome. All I know is in my home office, I've got my dad's car phone from the 1980s. This thing is this big with an antenna that's 15 feet long, like literally 4 meters long. It's like, hello? That thing's this big. And then it had the dialer on the phone. Was it so much better back then? I don't know. We didn't have GPSs. I mean, I can't even drive a car without a GPS now. To go to McDonald's, man, like, where is it? And so the point is this. Keep an open mind. Learn as much as you can. One system is not better than another. One style of music is not better. You might like one more. That is your musical choice. One technique is not better than another. Here is my motto again. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So, playing these chords, technically speaking, you want to keep your fingers as close to the fret as you can that faces the body. In other words, If you're playing right-handed, the far right-hand side. If you were left-handed, coming this way would be the left side. But for the sake of just being a right-handed player, do this. Now, when you strum, strumming means to go back and forth, but when you play this, you just literally take your pick, starting on the 4th string, and go straight down. The sound goes up, the motion goes down. Because remember, your 1st string is the high E that is on, if you look, up and down the bottom of your guitar. So G major, like this. 1 finger, G7, C major, D7. And do you see how those chords flow? They're just 4 simple chords, but they flow together. That's something that I was not taught. That's something that I heard as a musical person. And this is, don't ever be afraid of technique. Or if somebody said, don't play in patterns, or don't do this, or don't do that. Why? Learn as much as you can and apply it to the music. Remember, musical people will find a way to make music. My job as a teacher is to give you as much information as you can in the most unbiased way that I can. I'm not here to tell you who to listen to, what to like, what to do. I can just tell you these are the lessons, practice them in this method, that is the technique. And you will use that to make the music that you want to make. And that's a tradition of and a methodology in teaching that's gone for a long time before I was born. But the technique and the learning to be good in the proper way enhances the music. But remember, a person that's just got music inside them will find a way. You will find a way to play the song the way you want to play it. Your technique will help you play it better. And so you always want to think about those two. One enhances the other. Okay, now, so after this, I want to talk to you about the proper way of holding a guitar and a few more details on the guitar. The first lesson, I used a guitar that was a single cutaway. This is called a double cutaway because literally they cut into the wood 2 times. And so you have your neck. This is a maple neck, which is one of my favorite kinds of necks. I just love the sound of maple. It's very bright. This is the headstock with the Sawtooth logo. They call this a 6-in-line. And so on the other guitar, you had 3 here, 3 here. This has 6 tuning keys in line, so that's called a 6-in-line headstock. And so, and like I told you before, the headstock is the part that a guitar company can patent, and this identifies the brand. And so, and I also said there are headless guitars where there is no headstock. These tuning keys are here. Most companies, like if I owned a guitar company, I mean, I love Sawtooth Guitars, I wouldn't do that. I don't think it enhances the sound. And a friend of mine by the name of Grover Jackson, the man behind Jackson Guitars, told me necks and wood, even on this, not just the body, has a lot to do with tone. So if you have a little more wood, that can't help but enhance your sound a little bit. So anyway, you have here, you've got the nut. Now on this guitar, it is not a fixed bridge. In other words, this is the bridge. It has a tremolo bar on there. So you can make, and I don't want to do that because this is perfectly in tune here. And this guitar has single coil pickups. Do you notice it's only 1 coil versus the 2 that are the humbucking or humbucker pickups? So, and what this did, this is an earlier style of pickup that when you really maxed out the amp and you had more of a distortion sound, you got a lot of buzz. And like in certain rooms where the lighting isn't right and you plug into a wall, like if you're in a club or you're just playing a venue that the electricity isn't that great, these guitars hum like crazy. Like, it's like, I just want to play a song. I don't want to hear it. So that's why they came up with the hum canceling humbuckers. Now, these are really great sounds though. It's a very Stratocaster-like sound. And what they have is 3 positions. Now, 3 pickups, and it's this toggle switch or pickup selector has got 5 positions. And what they found is the original ones way back in the day only had 3 positions, but they found a position, like here would be the neck position pickup. 3 into it would be the center. 5 would be the bridge position. And in the old days, they only had 3. So when you went to the middle pickup, there was no selector point in between. But what happened is the way these things worked, we called it out of phase. You actually found this. And so here's what you have. You have this here, this here, that there. But when the middle position, you have these 2. Then it goes to here. So this is a 5 way selector switch. So you have neck position, 2 positions with the neck in the middle, in between the middle, the 4th position, this, and the 5th, the bridge position. It's very, very logically placed. Now on here, we have a volume that's a global volume, and then we have 2 tone controls. So again, it's, basic parts of a guitar, but it's still something that you need to learn. Now, do you see this white part here? That's called a pick guard. And really what the idea of it is so that when you strum, your pick doesn't damage the wood. It just strums and hits the guard. It guards against your pick ruining the finish of a guitar. If I kept scratching this, you're going to damage the wood with my pick. But if you hit this, you get a few marks in the pick guard. That's why it's called a pick guard. Okay, now, holding your guitar properly. I'm using a strap. When I play, I also use what's called a footstool. And a footstool is a really great thing. They use it for classical guitars when you sit down. There are 2 schools of thought with this. You have 2 legs, most of us. And if you play using one leg like this, then if you stand up, you're actually playing like that. That's not the way you would stand up. If you sit down more like a classical guitar player and put the guitar between your legs, when you stand up, you are in position to play standing up. So I highly recommend sitting like this. And then if it's uncomfortable with the foot that the guitar rests on, that's where they use this footstool. It's a Chromacast Footstool. And so I put my foot on there and the guitar rests comfortably. Now, you want to keep your guitar at an angle upward. And the reason is nobody plays a guitar perpendicular to their body. First of all, it looks stupid. But the second thing, it is stupid. You want to play like this, angle. Now, there's a reason for that. It's more comfortable for your hands. A lot of people develop hand problems from playing an instrument, doing sports. We call it a repetitive motion injury. And you can circumvent this by just thinking in one way. Think lazy. Now, I don't mean be lazy. When you hold an instrument, you want to kind of think, especially on a guitar, what would it look like if you were holding that instrument in a position that your hands were by your body? In other words, a lot of times people play like this. They have their thumb over the neck, they grab it, there's no daylight, like I talked about in lesson 1, between your fingers, so they play like this. Well, look at your hand. Look at the hand position. Put that hand position by your side. Do you really want to walk down the street? Hello, how are you? Or do like, hello, I'm really glad to meet you. Just walk around like this. Do that for a couple hours. It's going to hurt. You are asking for carpal tunnel. I mean, does that look comfortable? It isn't comfortable. So what you want to do is you want to think more like, how are my hands at my side? They're like this. So you try to emulate that playing guitar. So when you sit down, you hold your guitar like this, you put your fingers on the guitar and your thumb behind the neck. That creates what I call daylight, and daylight is right here. You want air between your hand and the neck of the guitar. You do not want to play like that. You want to play like this. And so when you hold your fingers And remember, each finger needs to play as far to the right side of the fret as possible. In other words, facing the body of the guitar. So try this. Put fingers 1 on 1 fret, 6th string, second finger, 2nd fret, bottom string, 3rd, 4th. Put all 4 fingers down like this and keep your thumb behind the neck. When you have your guitar up at an angle, you're like this. Look at that. It's not, you have to angle your wrist a little bit. You cannot play straight on. It's impossible. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. But it's good to have a little bit of an angle, but it's not extreme. So when you play like this, you're at an angle about like that. It's not something that your tendons or your joints are going to feel that it's ouch, ouch, uncomfortable. And so this is proper hand positioning for your fretboard hand. Now, the reason I have you put all your fingers down on this E string, the bottom E string, is because this is called a closed position. And what I mean by that, you have 4 fingers. When you put 4 fingers down on 4 frets, that is position 1. You are in the first position. If you start, your first finger tells you what position you are in. If you are on the 5th fret, your first finger tells you that you are in the 5th position. And when you use 4 notes in a row like this, you don't have to use them, but when you have a grouping like this, that is closed. If I move 1 fret, 5 frets now instead of 4, that is an open position. So a lot of the things we're doing now are going to be in closed positions because that's how you start. And I have a great saying too. In order to think outside the box, you have to know what's in the box. I'm going to show you what's in the box. And so this is very important. So you rest your guitar slightly upward on an angle. You put your hands like this, fingers 1, 2, 3, 4 on the low E string. You keep your thumb behind the neck and as perpendicular to the guitar as you can. So if your guitar's like this, your thumb would be like this. This is proper hand positioning. Now, let's get to the pick. There are 2 things you can do. You can either strum a chord or less than a chord, 3 strings, 2 strings, intervals, triads, chords. You don't need to know all those words yet, but just know a chord is 4 strings or more. Now, I'm showing you with a guitar pick. There are many ways to play the guitar. You can use finger style. You can do a thing called hybrid picking, which is, it's a combination of the pick and your fingers. But for now, we are starting at ground zero, at the letter A in the alphabet. Use a pick. The proper way to hold a pick varies on a lot of individuals. I've seen people hold picks like this. I've seen like this. But there are 2 schools of thought when you play guitar. And try both. You either position a finger, 1 finger, or more fingers on the actual guitar and play. I do this. John Petrucci does this. Yngwie Malmsteen. A lot of other great guitar players do this. It is a fantastic way to play. It's worked for me my whole life. And, you know, I can play very advanced things and I've never had a problem. Now, there's another school of thought, and this one I think is really amazing too, where you keep your hands off the guitar. So instead of resting a finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, 1, you know, your pinky, I mean, there's all variations of that. You don't rest it there at all. So you play like that. So you actually have a closed, more like a closed fist. Even if you do this, and you don't touch the guitar, it's the same concept. Everybody plays a little different, but there are 2 main ideas and then variations of them. So the main ideas with picking are a finger or more fingers on the guitar, fingers off the guitar, a free-floating system. People like Joe Bonamassa use this, Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin. They're both fantastic. You know, they're both great ways to do it. And neither one is better or worse than the other. It's a preference that as you get better on guitar, you're going to find which way works the best for you. Now, when you play, like I said, you either strum a chord or you hit an individual note. You use your pick. Now, there are all sorts of different ways to attack a string, to hit a string, but we're not concerned with that right now. We're just concerned with playing the chord and doing what is called a strum. See, when you pick the string, just one note, you're picking a note. You're using a pick, and they call it picking the note. One note at a time. When you use your pick to hit multiple strings, more than one note, you are strumming. So you are strumming either 2 strings, 3 strings, 4 strings. You can get down 5 strings, 6 strings. But for now, we're going to concern ourselves with just the 4 chords. G, G7, C major, D7, G. Now I could say G major too. Now I talked about this in the last lesson, but it's good to reinforce these things. If I say G, C, D, I'm implying that it's G major, C major, D major. So G, G7, C, D7, G. And I came up with that sound, that way to put those chords together because I'm a musical person and I wanted to make music with the exercise. So here's what you do. You take your G chord and you strum. Now don't be as concerned about if your fingers are on the guitar or off yet. We're not working on that yet. We're just trying to get you to get a feel, to get comfortable with the instrument. So you play a G chord. 3rd finger, 3rd fret, 1st string. You strum 4 strings. You can either make it sound, but that's not really strumming. You are strumming in a way, but it's arpeggiating. It's not playing a chord. You don't have to know that word yet either. So you want to go like this. You want to make it sound like one complete sound, not like this. Now then you have to do an upstrum. The upstroke, we also call it a stroke. There's many names for the same things. But what I can tell you is this. When you strum down, you're stroking the strings down, and an upstroke. Upstroke means literally you're bringing it up. Now when you're strumming, it's the same thing. Down, up. And what you want to try and do is strum it 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you were going to count a measure, it would be like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Because in music, and we'll talk about how to start reading music, they divide music into little segments called measures. And those measures are guidelines to tell you, okay, is it a 12 measure song? Is it a 24 measure song? And there's a word that's interchangeable with measure called bar. You hear things, let's play a 12-bar blues. Well, what they're saying is a 12-measure blues. And then they divide these measures, 4 counts in the measure, 3 counts, could be 15 counts, can be any number. But one of the great things about music is it's very easy to understand. Everything in music is either in duple, which in 2s, or triple in 3s. Everything you do in music is going to be odd or even amounts of notes. So you have duple, 2, or triple meter, metal 4 minus 1. So it's either 2 counts, 3 counts. If you were in 5 in one measure, 3 and 2. So, there's all sorts of ways to think about music, but the great thing is it's very simple and it always adds up. So when you play this, and you want to start strumming, and you're holding your guitar properly on your picking hand, just grip it with your thumb and your index finger comfortably, and just strum down on the 4 strings and strum back up, and make it sound like this. Now I can get really fast on it, but it's not necessary. You want to get the feel. Then you switch to G7. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the trick is this, to make it smooth. What? Because what you don't want to do is this. Then you go to C, then D7, then G. So proper hand positioning, 4 fingers down here, all on 4 strings, angle your guitar upwards. I suggest you play the guitar sitting in the middle of your legs versus this. But if you really want to play like this, you can. It's not wrong. It's just, I think it's better to play like this. Classical guitar players play like this. It's just very, very comfortable when you get used to it. Try to limit the motion in your arm. Make sure there's daylight between your hands. And try to get each one of these notes when you're playing to really sound out, to ring. So you don't want to go, oh, it sounds very excellent. I love it. I love it. No, you want to make it go, don't make excuses. Make music. And so, and remember, get comfortable. The upstroke on strumming is difficult. And again, don't worry about these minor details. See, paralysis through analysis. If you get so caught up in the little details, you're going to freeze and paralyze yourself with the fear that you're not doing it right and you're never going to get better. So you just strum. Just try and get it to sound nice. Then move effortlessly and don't go. Once you can move from chord to chord without losing the rhythm of the strum, you are there. Lesson 2, practice, practice, practice.